Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Yep, Charlamagne the God, Angela Yee, we are the Breakfast Club. DJ Envy had to run, but we have a very special guest in the building. There's a word called boss that gets thrown around too loosely nowadays, but this woman is definitely one. She's an American entrepreneur. She's been a radio and TV personality, but she is the founder of Radio One, Miss Cathy Hughes. Good morning.
Good morning. What an honor to be on the Breakfast Club with the two of you. And please tell DJ Envy, I missed him. I've watched all three of you, the careers of all three of you. I was so excited when I learned that they were going to put the three of you together because each of you had such a distinguished career individually, but together, powerhouse. Nothing but pure, unadulterated power.
Thank you
so
very
I'm honored
much.
to be here. That's so true.
You know, Ms. Hughes, I have to ask you early on, what really gave you your drive to know that you could do something that really had never been done before as a woman, as a Black woman, you know, in this world to feel like, okay, I can start my own radio station?
Well, part of what we're going to talk about this morning, Urban One Honors, is featuring the music of my mother. My mother was a founding member of the International Sweethearts of Rhythm, the #1 all-women's 18-piece orchestra in the 1930s and 40s. So I had 18 Black women who later became international. There were white women who had joined the group, Asian women, Spanish women. But I saw these women who started off as teenagers, much like you, Angela. Even as teenagers, they were progressive. They were bold. They were unafraid to rock the boat. And we're talking about the height of Jim Crow and segregation in the United States. They're on a bus performing and touring the South. So I grew up in an atmosphere of you can do whatever you think you want to do. So at age 8, when my mother bought me a transistor radio, I decided at age 8 that I wanted to be in media. I wanted to be in radio. I wanted to have my voice amplified. And much like you, I didn't just want to play music. I wanted to tell people things that would help them improve their everyday lives.
Yeah, you know.
And hopefully I've been able to do it.
No, you definitely did. You know, I always say, you know, one of the 4 people who inspired me the most in this entertainment business is one of them is a radio personality named Petey Green. Petey Green wouldn't have had his voice if it wasn't for y'all, right?
Listen, Petey Green, you know, was my former husband's best friend. Dewey Hughes discovered him. It's interesting to this day, both Don Cheadle and Taraji P. Henson both tell me that their favorite roles of all the things that they've done
Talk to me.
in movies and television was Talk to Me. They said that because Petey was a 3rd grade dropout. And 10,000 people came to his funeral, much like DMX's celebration in New York. But he spoke at Georgetown University. He spoke at Notre Dame. He was truly a genius who, had he had other circumstances in his life, Petey probably would have been co-hosting with you all on the Breakfast Club. Okay, he had that level of talent. He was just before his time.
Yeah, I saw the Talk to Me movie first, and then I started, going to watch clips of him on YouTube. But the Talk to Me story is not just the story of Petey. It's like the story of the start of Radio One in a lot of ways.
Yes. Well, you know what? Some people think that, but Charlamagne, really not, because people are like, why weren't you in? I didn't even know Dewey and Petey during the era that the movie was made about. I was still in Omaha, Nebraska. I had not even come forward. Mm-hmm. And they just kind of, when they, you know how they do movies and they do the tests, when they did the test, they realized that WOL was still very much alive and well, and people were asking why in the way. Hey, there's MB.
How you doing? How's everything?
Yeah, good. Thank you for joining us.
Good to see you. I had to catch a flight, but I wanted to jump in and just say hello, and I love and respect all that you've done for our culture and everything. So I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of all three of you.
Thank you so much.
I was sorry. I was like, wait, I'm missing somebody.
No. I'm sorry to cut you off. You were talking about Petey Green. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, Petey was such an enigma, because for this level of brilliance to exist and for his life to have been such a tragic life, Dewey, recognized it. and try to create a dream and a fulfillment of that dream for Petey. But in reality, it was Dewey's dream and fulfillment. It's not what Petey wanted. Petey just wanted to be able to wake up in the morning and be Petey Green. And his brilliance, just his activism. Petey was saying things when, it was not popular.
That's right.
Okay, we could get, and the fact that he and Dewey had this bond. Dewey has, I think, ever since Petey's, death at 53 years old, he was so young when, he died, but alcoholism really took him out, and a whole assortment of, he was in prison more of his life than he was on the outside world, and yet the impact that he had. So I'm glad that you're a Petey Green fan.
Oh,
Well, no, I love it.
Before Envy gets out of here, I want to make sure we talk about Howard University a little bit and the role that played and where you are today, because Envy did go to NHU. He went to Hampton, and I know you guys have a little friendly
I see the sign.
competition, but what happened at Howard that helped shape your future?
Howard University actually produced me when I received an honorary degree from them before I was blessed with them naming their School of Communications in my honor. They used to, when they would introduce me, they would say that she's our most successful graduate who never attended Howard University, because they actually groomed me. Okay. When Dr. Cheek, who was then the president of Howard, asked me if I was interested in being the general manager of the Howard University station, WHUR, I said to him, I would love the opportunity, but I don't know how to do it. So Howard literally sent me to Harvard for 6 weeks to take a course called broadcast management. That's how I learned how to manage broadcasting facilities, was because Howard invested in me. They groomed me. It was such a blessing. I had a choice of coming to be on the faculty of Howard University or going to be the EEO director for Stanford. When I went to California, to be very honest with you, I didn't think I would go to work. I had never seen blue and green water. I'm from the Midwest. In Omaha, we have brown and gray. We don't have blue and green. And so when I went to Cal, I said, no, I better go east, because I don't think I'd ever get up to go to work. I would just be outside oohing and ahhing. And then Hollywood on top of it. No, I was a little country girl from Omaha. So I opted for the East Coast. Howard changed my life. They opened the door of opportunity. And then some 45 years later, to name the School of Communications in my honor was like, I'm still in awe, to be very honest with you. I mean, I'm like a kid. I go up to the university and I stand there and look in front of at the sign. I'm standing outside and people come up to me. What an honor. What an honor.
Now, where did you get the business mind to jump into radio and own radio stations? Because it's something that I don't think people would ever think of or thought of, and you had that mind to own stations and to put brothers and sisters on air, to talk about everything from our struggle to just celebrate. What gave you that business mind?
I'm a generation of business entrepreneurs. We still have a school in Mississippi that's 115 years old, founded by my mother's father, called the Pineywood School, Pineywood, Mississippi, one of the few Black boarding schools still open and teaching, and housing children. So it was expected of me to work for myself. Plus, I'm kind of like the three of you all. I work better being in charge. Okay, I work better determining my own destiny.
Absolutely.
And so I realized early on, as I looked around, Washington, D.C. has always been such a socially active community because of the, nearly, when I moved there, 80% Black population. We called it Chocolate City back in those days. Mm-hmm. And so now it's kind of Neapolitan. It's no longer Chocolate City. But I knew that my mouth would get me in trouble, quite frankly, as sometimes the three of you all get in trouble. So I knew early on that it was best that I followed the example of my family. My mother with the International Sweethearts of Rhythm, she was a founding member of this band. My mother was only 16 years old when she ran away from home and joined the band. So I've always had this boldness about standing up for what I believed in. And certainly it's easier to do it when you're the boss.
Miss Hughes.
I thank Charlamagne for calling me the boss, because even as a kid, they were like, she's so bossy.
Miss Hughes, I want to know, how do you spot talent? And do you think radio is giving, personalities the opportunity to still be personalities?
I think that you all reopened that. I was very familiar with all three of you because one of the things that God has really blessed me with is the ability to spot talent. And like I said, I remember when you were with Wendy Williams.
That's right.
As you know, Wendy Williams, started with me. I remember when you were seriously trying to get people to read books, Angela, and still, are doing that. And DJ Envy, I remember when everybody was honored to be, associated with you and the things that you were doing on the turntable. So I've always kept my eye out for budding talent, being able to recognize talent in individuals even before it has come into its full fruition. I thank God for that ability, for that talent. I think maybe if I had gone a different path and gone into the music industry, that I would have a lot of platinum plaques up on my walls.
Absolutely. How difficult is it for owning a African American station, a black station? I always look at these sponsorship, these big companies, and I see them spend money with all these other stations, all these white stations and country stations, and it seems like they never want to spend it with the black stations.
And not just stations, but media companies, because it's not just radio.
But we control everything.
Newspapers, magazines.
Yeah, we control the posts. Like, how did you get around that?
Yes. And let me tell you a true story about WBLS in New York. When WBLS was number one in New York City, that made WBLS the number one radio station in the entire United States. When we looked at revenue, they were number 24.
Wow.
Now, how can you be the number one station because they were black? Okay, how can you be number one and you don't get the prize? Mm-hmm. Okay, you're not even top 10. What has happened is the reality is, it's kind of like an example I use when I'm training my sales teams. There are a lot more cars than there are parking spaces. There's a lot more competition. And even now, because everyone is into the black space, everyone is an expert on black culture and black people. There's a lot of talk now about corporations spending a lot more money with black-owned media. Well, the reality is I've heard the conversations. I've participated in some of the meetings. So far, I have not seen it hit our bottom line. Because the reality is whatever you spend with me takes away from another company, takes away from a majority market company. So those advertising agencies have relationships with their cousin is running X, Y, and Z station and their son-in-law is doing this. We don't have that type of network in the advertising community. So consequently, we get crumbs off the table. I mean, General Motors now is talking about going from 2% to 4% and ultimately to 8%. There's a lot of controversy about that because the reality is we buy 11% of their automobiles. Right. Mm-hmm. So why not we be allowed to get the same percentage in advertising revenue and support? So, when I first started, inner city broadcasting and BLS, they were the ultimate. I never thought that one day my company, Urban One, would be Radio One, TV One, Clio, Syndication One, Reach Media. I never realized that I would end up filling voids that I didn't even know would exist, which ended up being us being the largest company. That was not by design. That was because we were filling a void because black companies right now, as we speak, are closing left and right because of lack of support, particularly in the media, advertising support. And the other thing is, it's like something that you all are confronted with. How do you build, listener loyalty? How do you build viewer loyalty? Because, my class used to always hate to hear me talk about Fox. I said, how many of you love Empire? Everybody's hand went up. Mm-hmm. I said, how many of you hate Fox News? Everybody's hand went up. I said, you realize that the same white folks that run Fox News also are the same white folks that make decisions on Empire?
That's right.
That's reality, okay? That's reality. And I think that when you really understand how hard it is, it's been hard for black media to survive, black-owned media for a very long time, and it hasn't gotten any easier.
No, that's why what you're doing, what you've done and what you continue to do is so incredible. I wanted to ask you, Ms. Hughes, did you like how you were portrayed in the Wendy Williams movie?
No, because it was inaccurate. Deanna Williams didn't work for me, and that's who she was in the room. I have never, ever once smoked a cigarette inside a facility. I used to be a chain smoker. Thank God I'm almost 2 decades now off of no cigarettes, but no, I did not. And it was so interesting because she said I threw her out like trash. But Wendy Williams just came on Clio television and is doing a promo saying, I'm home. So I was
Lord
like,
have mercy.
I'm a little confused. Right. I'm a little confused, Wendy, because I can't tell you how many times I've been so proud of her statements concerning the difference that we made in her life and her career. And then that portrayal, when, I got a clip because I'm sure that the media wanted me to comment and get some, back and forth going. But I just swallowed my pride because it was not accurate. It was not accurate at all. That's not how Wendy left our company. I would never have thrown her out. Wendy was going through some seriously troubled times when she was with me. And I have been so proud of how she's been able to weather the storm and keep going. But the one thing I have to give her credit for, she made my office was a freaking trailer. Okay, all right, with the bathroom next to the kitchen. Okay, and she had a spiral staircase coming down. I was like, well, at least that part I didn't care about the fantasy being wrong. Okay, but all right, I was like, yeah, because I was in a freaking trailer. But it was not an accurate portrayal at all.
Yeah, I don't like how she.
Yeah.
I don't like how she portrayed you. I don't like how she portrayed Helen Little. I just think, when you.
No, thank you.
Yeah, when you're a woman.
Yeah.
When you're a black woman, you got to really pay homage to the, black women that came before you. Black people, period.
And helped you. Like I said, I was at her 40th birthday party, and her husband stood up and talked about only 2 people had ever challenged her to make her life better, me and him. And like I said,
Wow.
She's always publicly given me credit. And then when they sent me the clip, I thought the network had done it. And then when I realized that Wendy had done that project, but let me say to you that one of the things that she understands very much is if it bleeds, it leads.
That's right.
Okay.
How to sell the story.
All right. Okay. So.
But there's nothing you could really do about something like that, right? When you're not portrayed accurately, you just have to deal with it.
Well, you know what? I'm a big fan of biographies, and Aristotle Onassis, I'm sure you've read his book. He said, it doesn't matter whether it's good press or bad press, accurate press or inaccurate press. The most important thing is, did they spell and pronounce your name correctly? Okay, so here I am on the Breakfast Club, and you were talking about it. Okay, so a lot of people saw it, and and people who know me know that that's not my personality. And there was a cocktail on the table. I was like, oh my God, I don't even drink. What is she doing to me?
I wanted to ask, for youngins right now that are in high school or college and they want to get into radio, what would you advise to them? We all had different routes. Ye started at Sirius, Charlamagne started in South Carolina. I was a mix at Hot 97. So what would you tell somebody to get in this radio game? Because people think it's easy. They think they could just get in easy. So what advice?
And it has evolved and changed so much from when we first started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with technology, number one, it's a sweatshop. I think when they hear you, they think that we live these glamorous lives. They don't know that you all have to go to bed early. And if you have an engagement that requires you to stay up late, it doesn't matter. You still got to get up early. Mm-hmm. That it's dark when you come into the studio, that you've got to be prepared. But what I say to young people is do what Jada has done. Create your own space. For too long, we have educated young Black kids to get a good job. Now, on their own, they have decided they want to have a nice business. They want to be entrepreneurs. It's the same thing with media. Just because, it's how you all got discovered, because you were doing your own thing. It's almost like, if you do your own thing, then you're faced with a hard decision. Do I want to become a part of something larger, or do I want to continue having the independence of being able to do my own thing? And so I say to them, hey, with technology, you can do your own newspaper, your own magazine, your own radio show, your own television show. So do not depend on getting an opportunity with somebody else's. Start your own and see where that leads you.
Absolutely.
Ms. Hughes, earlier you were talking about these corporations and how they don't spend enough money when it comes to black media and black radio. And I want to ask you, I saw that Radio One, Urban One, your stocks shot up, right? And people are saying this is a great stock to buy. And a lot of people have been right now in this moment trying to make sure these corporations are trying to make sure that they're spending in these spaces. How do we make sure it's not just a moment and that it's something that continues on?
Well, first of all, we got to see the moment occur. Like I said, I was on a call with General Motors, and my son teased me afterwards. He said, "You don't miss an opportunity." I said to them, they were talking about this was a historic time. This was a historic meeting. I said, Frederick Douglass and Ida B. Wells had historic meetings, but we're still discussing the same issues, which is being able to get enough revenue in to grow the scale so that we can truly be competitive. The reality is that it's really left up to the consumers. And if we continue to do like what you all are doing with the Breakfast Club, what you're doing with your individual lives, if we continue to disseminate information that makes our community wake up and smell the coffee, used to be my slogan when I was doing the morning show, they will understand that they have two powerful weapons. One is their dollar, and the second is their vote. And when they start understanding that you don't have to call it a boycott, you just withhold your financial support. I mean, okay, when couples break up, that happens more frequently than, somebody withholds something. There's no difference in a relationship as a consumer with a product or service that you're purchasing. If you want to get them to see the light, smell the coffee, and do things the way you think they should be, for years, whether I hired a law firm or an electrician, my first question that I require my staff to ask is, how many Black folks do you have? If it's not a Black-owned company, which is my first preference. If it's not, how many Black employees do you have? If I go in to buy a car, I'm not going to buy a car I look for the brother or the sister selling the car.
That's right.
All right. We have to be continuously, and I thank you all for that, we have to continuously be beating the drum of liberation, because our competitors are telling Black folks that it's okay for them to buy that car from the most qualified car salesman. It's okay for them to love Empire and hate Fox and not connect the dots. So the dissemination of information is the key to our liberation. And that's what all, four of us are about, quite frankly, is telling the truth to our people. Takes time. All right. I mean, we just didn't get dumbed up. We just didn't get convinced that it was okay to spend our money. Integration opened up opportunities and shut down Black businesses, because once Black folks realized that they could go and shop in all the department stores or stay in all the hotels and eat at all the restaurants, guess what? They stopped going to our own. And we have to remind them, that we have to be loyal to our own. We're the only peoplehood, and I think it's the residual effect of slavery and Jim Crowism and segregation and all the other isms that we've been victimized by, who do not first look out for our own. If you're not, it's a poor dog who don't wag his own tail. If we do not, if we do not look out for our own community, you think some other culture is going to look out for us?
Nope.
No.
Now,
sorry.
You got to be I love that, and you got to be intentional about your Blackness and pouring into other Black people. You have to be,
right. And you got to be proud of it. Farrakhan used to say something that really touched me deeply, which is you've got to learn to love your people more than they've been taught to hate themselves.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
That's
all
right.
And that's hard, because I'm sure you all find yourself, you say something, you take on an issue and you're really trying to give the truth to open eyes. You end up finding yourself fighting with your own community as well as fighting with the power structure. That's a very difficult position for a messenger to be in.
Lord
fighting
have
on
mercy.
two fronts.
Amen.
Okay.
Lord have mercy. Malcolm X calls it radical Black dignity.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I was
Who was born in Omaha, Nebraska, just like me.
That's
Shout
right.
out to Omaha.
Today's Farrakhan's birthday too.
Yep.
Yep.
I was gonna ask, are you Do you have friends as artists in a relationship? Because, with an artist, sometimes they hot, they on fire, and then sometimes they get cold. But if you're my friend, I'm still expecting Miss Hughes to still support my music. So do you have those battles with artists at
If
times?
that's really your friend, they know better. They're like, I got to be hot for her to. I'm not trying to put somebody in that position.
I'm really glad you said that, Angela. Yes, and the other thing is one of the greatest compliments that's been paid to me by artists that I'm close to is they asked me to listen to it. I had an accident as a young child, so I'm actually tone deaf in my right ear. And the joke in the music industry is that Cathy Hughes can hear it, it's a hit. Okay. So I can't tell you how many hours of my life has spent listening. One of my greatest memories was a day that I spent with Prince for 12 hours. I was in the vault with him, listening and seeing videos. Oh, he had invited me over to see some new stuff. And then he kept asking me, am I monopolizing your time? Are you okay? I said, no, I'm fine.
I'm here. I'll be here for 2 weeks if you need. Right.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly. Hey, my son didn't think he thought it was improper for me to say. I told him I'd stay indefinitely. Okay.
I'll get my bags.
Exactly. I'll go shopping. I don't even have to go back and pack. I'll buy new stuff. Okay. And it was just remarkable to hear his genius that would never, be heard, never see the light of day. And some of the things that I pointed out to him that I thought were particularly, powerful, particularly good exhibits of his incredible talent. Most people, again, miss the point. Michael Jackson named his son Prince. Okay, so when you have Michael Jackson admiring the brilliance of a Prince, I get, I'm kind of like the test market. I'm a one-woman test market for a lot of the people in the industry. It's fun. It's hard sometimes when I have to say to them, I don't think so. Okay. But it's an honor that they would ask me. And particularly as I've aged, it kind of fascinates me. They're like, this age is dope. I was like, what did you expect? Okay, I grew up, in the music industry. But I mean, they're like surprised that, I'm a big fan of, certain artists because I see the potential. I see where they're going. I always tease Cardi B. I said, I knew you when you were a brunette. Okay.
Well, who do you like today? I'm just curious, out of the new artists.
Yes, I like so many of them. Urban One Honors, which is the biggest celebration of Black women that has ever been on television, is, next Sunday, May the 16th. You see, I know how to work in the commercials.
That's right.
There you go.
But, I have Jasmine Sullivan. I'm a big fan of Jasmine
Her new
Sullivan.
album's fire.
Yes, absolutely. I've known Beyonce since she was a twinkle in her mom and daddy's eyes. I was part of when she was born. Okay, so I've watched her. Okay, I knew at 5 years old when she was, saying, "Get the camera, daddy." Okay, all right. Okay, that she was going somewhere with it. But I'm a really big fan of. For so many years, artists had such a hard time that oftentimes it would affect their personalities. They weren't, quote, the nicest people. Okay, they were tired. They were overworked. They were playing schedules like basketball, stars. Now, they have a lot more control over their creative genius. They have a lot more opportunity. They're making a lot more money. And consequently, they have better personalities. They're a lot nicer. They're a lot more committed to the liberation of our people. They're a lot more willing to work in collaboration with other artists. As I watched my mother's career as a child, there were some pretty mean-spirited individuals that were big names, very popular, but when they were off that stage, they were not great people to get along with and weren't very helpful. That has all changed, and I love that.
Miss Hughes, before we get into the these questions about DMX, because I know you don't have a lot of time, I got a radio question.
Excuse me, I'll tell you what I told Prince. I could stay indefinitely.
Okay. But I got a radio question. Who created the Quiet Storm format? Was it you? And Melvin Lindsay, or was it Vaughn Harper?
Neither. Okay, me. Melvin Lindsay was my student intern. He was my third host of The Quiet Storm. My first was a young man named Don Roberts. Don Roberts was a television major at Howard University and went on. I mean, while he was still in college, while he was a senior, he was on the air at a Baltimore radio television station. So he wasn't very excited about The Quiet Storm. Jack Schuler was Melvin Lindsay's best friend. And Jack Schuler was even more withdrawn and more of an introvert than Melvin was in the beginning. And one day he came and he said, I can't do this, Miss Hughes, please. My roommate is telling me all the songs to play, and he understands all the music that because I pulled The Quiet Storm for the first 2 years was my private collection. So it had a lot of Nancy Wilson and other individuals that a lot of young people at Howard weren't, accustomed to hearing unless their parents had heard it. So Melvin was actually my third. Vaughn Harper, just like Wendy Williams, used to give me credit saying that I was the woman that made it possible for him to have a nice house, a brand new car, and a wardrobe, a closet full of brand new clothes. So no, Vaughn Harper nor Melvin created it. Again, Howard University sent me to the University of Chicago to learn programming because the students even at Howard weren't listening to WHUR in those days. And I went back to Dr. Cheek and I said, I appreciate you sending me to Harvard to learn how to manage it, but now I need to learn how to program it. And I went to the University of Chicago and took a summer course called Psychographic Programming, which is really the genesis of why you all are so popular. They taught me that the most important time in radio was the morning show, because people had not been inundated with all the pressures of the day, all of the problems of the day, that they were open, that they were more susceptible to accepting information and news. And so I came back, and before The Quiet Storm, I created a morning magazine at WHUR. The Quiet Storm was my second and most popular, but I also created a program called The Daily Drum. It was an hour of Black news because I was tired of realizing that I was broadcasting news that had been sent to me through a white filter. And I realized that, through not the, supplier's fault, it was their perception of what Black people are all about. When you look at the awards we win for portrayals of Black women, the reason this show coming up next Sunday is so important to me. I'm so tired of Black women being misrepresented and us allowing it and participating in the misrepresentation of who we are in the media. And like I said, I can't put all the blame on other folks because we go along with it. We think nothing of calling somebody out of their name on television or snatching somebody. That's not who we are. I mean, I've lived for 7 decades. I have never been to a social gathering where one sister grabbed another one. Okay. It's kind of like, most Black women are told, regardless of what we do at home, when we out in public, we conduct ourselves in a certain manner. Not on television and in the movies. We just let it all hang out. And I think that's horrible. I think it's terrible because I think that Black women have a very special responsibility and place in history. Stacey Abrams, who we honor next Sunday, is a classic example of that. When a sister makes up her mind, that sister used her anger. They stole that election from her. And instead of her going off pouting or trying to get even, she got ahead of the game and changed a red state to blue. That's the power of what Black women can do. And that's the story that needs to be told. And so, sisters, sometimes I don't get a lot of applause if I'm speaking and I talk about you all need to give up all these reality housewives of this. I said, most of you ain't even married. How you get to be a housewife and even a man? Okay, all right. So that ain't a popular position, but I'm sure, Angela, you know exactly what I'm talking about because you've been in some of them same positions. But we have to hold each other accountable. We not only have to celebrate each other, but we have to hold each other accountable. And we must go back to some of the teachings of yesteryear, when your grandmama, your aunts, your teachers required you to conduct yourself in a certain form and fashion because you were a Black woman.
Ms. Hughes, I have to ask you this, right? With Urban One being as popular and successful as it has been, how many times have people offered to buy the company, and have you ever thought about selling it?
I've never thought about selling it. Many years ago, Lowry Mays, the founder of Clear Channel, okay, that became iHeart, offered my son a position to run Clear Channel at that time. But his people said to him that they didn't think it was a good idea if he had to bring his mother along. And he said, well, my mother is my business partner, and I'm not going to continue having this conversation because my mother is a praying woman, and I don't want a bolt of lightning to strike me in the middle of this interview. Okay. But yeah, numerous times. My son I'm so thankful to him and for him because he could have made quadruple
Right.
the money and done quadruple the things, but he made that sacrifice to help me bring my vision to reality and reinvent ourselves and expand our, media reach. And he could have done so much better if he hadn't worked for me, because he and I both, I was teasing Tom Joyner one day. I told Tom that I used to have to pray when those talent contracts came across my desk, because Tom Joyner was paying more in taxes than I was paying myself in salary
Wow.
or Alfred.
Damn.
And, I had to get accustomed to
Yeah.
it because, hey, those of you who work the morning shows get the big dollars. And I was like, will I ever get anywhere near this? And then I realized that they were, in fact, making it possible for me to fulfill my dream of reaching my people.
That's right.
But I oftentimes have threatened my son. I said, listen, if I had to do over, me and you were going to go and do a morning show. Okay.
That'd be cute. And your son, Alfred, when did he know that he was going to be taking over the business? I'm sure that you're excited that he was down with that. But at what point was he like, okay, this is the direction I'm going in?
Angela, I ain't never been excited about giving up the power.
Well, I mean, at least it's your son, though. It's your son. So, no matter what.
Yeah. Hey, that makes it even harder. It makes it even harder when you have to give the combination to the vault to the kid who used to lose the house key regularly. Okay. I'm thankful that he was willing to embrace my dream and take it even to another level, going public. The day he graduated from Wharton, we're walking across UPenn's campus, and he says to me, the only reason I came and got this MBA from Wharton was because I'm taking us public.
Woo!
I stopped in the middle of the campus and start crying. Okay, I was like, no, we're a family operation. Okay. What I didn't know was that he was paying attention, because even though we are a publicly held corporation, we're structured like a lot of other family corporations, and we have what is known as a super vote. We control Urban One. Urban One, the controlling votes in Urban One's history and future, those votes are controlled by Alfred and myself. And that's what I was really afraid of, was giving up that power that could be one day forced to sell, that I could be victim of a hostile takeover.
Right.
But he paid attention in class. I have to.
Well, thank you, Wharton. Thank you, Alfred.
Yeah, thank you, Alfred, and thank you because he didn't pay attention before that. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing is, a little side story. I have more sidebars than an O.J. Simpson trial. I'm sure you all are aware by now. The reality is that generational businesses are very hard to do, period. And when Alfred came to me and told me that he needed to be the president of my company because he wanted to join the Young Presidents Club in Washington, D.C., which was composed of people in the media and the advertising industry because it would help our business. But he had to have the title in order to join the group. I went for it. That was a lie. He hasn't joined that club to this day. Okay. He wanted the title. But I thank God, because I've watched so many other Black companies like Johnson Publishing. Johnny Johnson stayed too long at the party. If he had to turn that company over to Lyndon Johnson Rice, I think that Johnson Publishing would still be alive today. We have to know when
Right.
to move aside and let, I think Earl Graves stayed at the party too long. I didn't want to be
You have to
staying
be
at the party
grooming that
too
next
long.
person always.
And that's an issue, Angela, that we have with our Black organizations. Who replaced, okay, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Farrakhan wasn't the only one. There were several.
That's right.
His son started a group. Several groups. Who replaced Dr. Dorothy Height with the National Council of Negro Women? They still are going through presidents. We do not prepare succession plans, and that's critical. So we are requiring every generation to start over. So again, a blessing was that Alfred decided he was working for Motown. At that time, he was working for Benny Medina. Okay, he was going to UCLA and hanging out at Motown. And he decided that he would come home and learn I said to him that unless you plan to marry one of Berry Gordy's daughters, when his will is read, your name isn't going to be anywhere. Okay, so even though you may not want to go into media, you at least owe it to yourself and to me to come learn how to run my company. At that time, it was just Radio One. Now, Urban One is the parent corporation of Radio One, TV One, and all of our 5 entities. And he came home to learn, and the media bug, thank God, bit him. So he stayed. But it's very difficult for Black folks. How many Black folks leave their houses to their children when they die? Well, people live longer now. What the hell do you want with your mama's house? Okay, all right. Give your child that house when they can use it as collateral to start a business or finance something they want to do. So you leave a house to someone who's 50, 60 years old, the first thing they do is sell it. That's why we're losing so much Black land, because we're waiting too long to transition the economics that we have built as the parent or grandparent generation to our children and our grandchildren. You need to do it when they can really use it for something to start their own.
Right.
Well, let's talk about this DMX interview, Miss Hughes.
Yeah, we want to make
here.
sure, because Sunday night's a big night for you.
Yeah, we could be talking to you
Our
all
biggest
day
ever.
long, and I can't wait till you do your own movie or book or something. But, this must be a big deal.
Maybe, hey, I would be more than willing to sign a contract with you all. The Cathy Hughes story produced by the Breakfast Club.
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
do
let's
it.
get this paperwork.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so DMX, we pursued for almost 5 years to do Uncensored, because Uncensored, is our answer to our sister program to Unsung. But the difference being that Uncensored, they get to pick what they want to talk about. They can talk about it as long as they want. So year after year, we asked DMX, and year after year, he told us no. One year he told us, you bring me $1 million and I'll do it. We don't have $1 million to pay you to talk about yourself right now. About 3 weeks before he died, he called us and asked us, were we still interested? Because we had stayed in touch. He had become friends with some of my producers by then, and we said, you serious? He said, yeah. He gave us 3.5 hours. And it's so hard for me to watch in the editing room. It was as if he knew he was not long for this world. It was as if he felt, sometimes you hear elderly folks say that you can, if you're really in tune with God, that you really do know when your life is coming to an end. And I think that he knew that he was at the end.
Wow.
Because the things we said, so it's a 2-part series that we're doing. I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to use it as the lead into Urban One Honors, because Urban One Honors is celebrating the accomplishment, not the women themselves, but the accomplishment of 7 actually, Black women. But part 1 is Sunday night at 8, and then part 2 is Monday night at 10. And on Monday night, his mother's going to come on, because he was quite honest about his childhood. He was quite honest about his relationship with his mother. And I think it was VH1 was actually responsible for getting him and his mother reunited and reconnected, because they had been estranged for a very, very long time. DMX had this special talent, this special brilliance, where he could call you an MF 1 minute and praise the Lord in the second breath. Okay, he had this spiritual base, this brilliance. Again, who knows what he could have been or would have been if he had not been the victim of an abusive childhood, if he had not grown up on the streets the way he had. So much Petey Green. Okay, he's a modern day version of the Petey Green story. We keep repeating this, particularly with our Black males. Our Black males have really been the whole issue all along. When you look at going back to Angela's point about these corporations, all these corporations are scrambling now around to hire diversity officers. 90% of the people they're hiring are Black females. Mm-hmm. So they'd rather deal with the angry Black woman than the scary Black man. There's always been this fear of the strength of the Black male. And that's no different today. In fact, it's more. I mean, how do you, for, almost 10 minutes, choke the life out of another human being if you don't really see that human being as less than a human being? And Black men have been subjected to that since the day they arrived on these shores. There have been, exceptions, but they have been far fewer exceptions with our brothers than there have been with our sisters.
We did get to see a preview of the DMX interview, and one thing that really did strike me was the teacher, right? He felt like really cared about him, and it really showed me how important teachers are. I mean, I always knew that. I actually wanted to be a teacher at one point in my life.
Really?
Yes, I did some schooling for it and everything. But I was going to say that is so important for teachers to actually really care about their students. And it really struck me to see like the one person he ever felt like really cared about him was one of his teachers, that made him feel like he could really be somebody, and just the influence that they can have on when he didn't have, people in his life, his family, that should have been the ones also.
Yep, exactly. And I think that part of his popularity was that he was not the exception. Right. He was the rule. Okay. How many Black males are lost because they don't have a support system growing up? Mm-hmm. They're punished once they get to be a certain age.
You never know what's going on in their home or how they were raised or anything, exactly. And why they might react a certain way in other environments. You don't know what somebody's past is or what's going on currently.
The probably the most troubling part of the DMX for me was the looking in his eyes, and it was like he was still alive. It was hard for me to connect, watching him being so truthful, so honest, so forthright, and knowing that he was dead. It was as if, and I'm so anxious for the millions of people who loved him and will always love him, to make that connect, because when you look at him, you realize that he's speaking his heart.
Yeah.
And he wasn't performing. He was telling you what was on his mind, in his heart, and on his soul. And then he was gone. It was so, such a prophecy of his own, ending. Because, like I said, we had stopped bothering him. We knew that we couldn't afford him.
It's been 5 years. We don't have $1 million.
Right. We didn't ask you for the last time. And an inside sidebar, one of our producers thought that it was somebody playing a joke, that it wasn't really DMX.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, they were like, that's not, that DMX is not going to do this. So she called back to verify, and he said, yeah, that was me, baby.
Well, Sunday night is going to be a huge night, so I know I'm really looking forward to it. Who are the 7 women being honored at Urban One Honors?
Well, the reason I said 6, because there's 6 honorees, but also I could not let this celebration of Black women occur without us recognizing our own CEO, Michelle Rice, who is the president and CEO of both TV One and Clio. So I had to, although she's not one of the honorees, I had to certainly tell her story. Stacey Abrams, mm-hmm. who preaches, okay? And, when the editors were saying, I said, hey, I don't care, cut out a commercial or whatever is necessary. Do not take one word, okay, off this, okay, digital, do not push not one button to eliminate one word coming out of Stacey Abrams' mouth. Roz Brewer, is was the first black woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Now there are two. And
Right.
Roz, says, "I'm glad for the company."
She's at Walmart, right?
Now she's at Walgreens.
Oh, Walgreens.
She's the CEO of Walgreens, and she's a chemist. Most people don't realize she's actually a chemist. She ran Sam's Club for Walmart.
Okay.
And at that time, I was on their business advisory committee, so she and I go all the way back. Nicole Hannah-Jones and the 1619 Project.
Right.
This sister has won a Pulitzer Prize for her work. Most people did not realize that they talk about the Mayflower coming over in, 1620. The White Haven, I think it was called, was the boat that brought the slaves in 1619. We were here before the Mayflower. Okay, so this project that Hannah has done, and she's honest in her interview with us about how difficult it is for a Black woman being an investigative journalist at the New York Times, because again, these major newspapers, that's the reason we have to own our own media outlets. They ain't interested in us investigating their wrongdoing. Okay, they don't want to. Dr. Ayla Stanford, the sister who paid to test Black folks in Philadelphia out of her own pocket. Her legacy is like unbelievable. Kim Ford, a young sister in Evanston, Illinois, that most people don't even know exists, figured out how to get reparations funded and is in the process of distributing $25,000 checks.
Yep.
We've been talking about reparations since 40 Acres and a Mule. Here's this little sister that nobody knows about in Evanston. This should be front page everywhere. Everybody should know about it.
We talked
Kim.
about it.
Yeah.
Okay. About Robin Ruth Simmons. Okay, Kim Ford is our ambassador of needs. She was I confused the category. Robin Rue Simmons is the reparations advocate. Kim Ford runs Martha's Table and has been distributing 100,000 pounds of food a week since the beginning of COVID to needy families. She's been setting up teaching bubbles so that parents who were not equipped to teach their own children at home didn't have computers nor the skill set. She's been organizing these efforts in the community so that the education system in America, in my opinion, is horrible already. Okay, and now we've taken 2 years out of these kids' lives. You can't recover what you were supposed to learn and know and be exposed to in the 5th grade. Okay, right. That's gone forever. You can't make up for this. And so these women, but this issue with reparations, most people don't even know that Robin Rue is giving out money already. She funded it through a cannabis bill. She added, and like you said, you all have covered this, but do you see major newspapers? I mean, she should be on the cover of somebody's magazine. After 450 years, this girl is distributing money. She is actually doing reparations. Dr. Stanford is out servicing the Black community at her own expense. When she was giving out tests and they asked her how they were going to get paid for it, she told them, bill her. She paid to test her community. Sisters, like I said, this program, Urban One Honors this year, in the past, this is only our 3rd year doing it, but most award shows celebrate the personality or the celebrity. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to celebrate and spotlight the accomplishments and the work.
I love it.
And that's what this show does. Yep. And I've got great entertainment. I mean, Debrat. I've got the music of my mother and the International Sweethearts of Rhythm. It was the first time Kim Burse, who did Beyonce's music for years. Kim Burse. Remember when Beyonce had an all-women's band? That was because of Kim Burse.
Nice.
Kim put together an all-women's band for Urban One Honors, and she took my mother's music from the 30s and the 40s and put a contemporary arrangement on it. And we've got 4 Black women mayors. We've got all 4 sororities.
This sounds like the room to be in. Is this in person or it was all virtual?
Some in person, some virtual.
Yeah, this sounds like a great room.
It is going to be a celebration of Black women and their accomplishments. Sisters going to the poll. We've got the video of those 4 sororities marching Black folks to the poll. So many things that I think I'm trying to encourage as many people as possible. And I think it's probably a function of my age too. I'm saying, please bring the young folks and make them sit down and watch this show.
Right. Inspiring.
And I would hope that and informational with enough entertainment to keep their attention focused.
Okay. Well, I know we'll
That's
be watching
right.
Sunday, May 16th, right? Is that the date? Yeah, May 16th.
Miss Hughes, I can't wait. Oh, go ahead. What you say?
I was going to say starting at 8:00 on Sunday with DMX.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait until you sit down, Miss Hughes, and tell your story long form, because you definitely have a story that needs to be told, and it's very inspirational. And I honestly I think now is the best time to tell it.
It might got to be like a 6-part series, though. It can't just be.
Hey, she got enough platforms to run it.
Uh-huh.
Hey, I just don't have enough money to finance it. That's the problem.
Well, we got to find the money. The Cathy Hughes story got to be told.
That's right.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. My priority has been, though, to get my mother's story told.
Okay.
Because Earl Father Hines, one of the great jazz legends, said that they were unquestionably the first freedom riders. Okay, they were the white girls who were in the band had to perform in blackface because they got arrested several times. They escaped. They ran from the police. It's an interesting story of being bold enough to do the things that they did. And they started off as teenagers. When the band disbanded, they were in their early 20s. So, I appreciate people thinking that my life's been interesting enough for there to be, a book or a movie or something about it. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that I am a product of the women who went before me and the contributions that they made.
Well, both can be true, Miss Hughes.
Okay. Well, like I said, maybe we can have a Breakfast Club GoFundMe for the Cathy.
Let's do it.
Okay. And maybe Wendy Williams will come on board and tell us how to glamorize it and put some untruths in there.
We got to make it salacious, We got.
Thank you, Miss Hughes. This was a pleasure.
I love you guys.
Thank you. We love you and appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace.
You all keep on keeping on, please.
We will. Thank you for paving the way.
Sunday night.
Thank you.
All right. Peace.